And welcome to this week's edition of Assembly Calendar. I'm your host, Matt Vischer. Our guest today is Assemblyman Al Graf, who represents the 5th Assembly District of Suffolk County. Assemblyman, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me here today.
Of course, this is our first show of the new legislative year, 2013, and already off to a running start, if you will. There have been a number of issues that we would probably going to address in the coming months, and let's talk a little bit about some of those that you would like to see as part of the 2013 budget.
Well, what I'd like to get back to is the first 2 years we could work with this governor, and he basically reached out to the legislature. Now, I didn't agree with him on everything, and if I don't agree with him, I'll stand up to him. If I do agree with him, I'll stand by his side. But lately, he's had a disdain for the legislative process. He's also had a disdain for people putting their input in. And a lot of times, I've learned in government, I was a town supervisor, that when you put a proposal out there and you're willing to have public comment and you're willing to have comment from the other elected officials, you could actually make a proposal stronger. But now what's happening, as you're seeing, he's rushing, steamrolling these bills, trying to push them through in the middle of the night, and they're not well thought out. Sometimes I don't know if he's reading them or not. An example is this gun bill. Now, in the past, I was happy because a lot of the programs that I put forward wound up in his state of the state. So he's willing to grasp onto ideas. But right now, he's coming from an attitude where his mind is made up, and don't confuse him with the facts. Fine example is this gun bill. The gun bill was rammed out in the middle of the night. There was no debate in the Senate whatsoever. We had 4 hours of debate. I'm on the Codes Committee. I'm the ranker for the Codes Committee, so I had to look at the bill quickly. I had an hour to go through the bill, 60, 80-page bill. And it became apparent he did not exempt the police. I have a real problem with this. I'm an ex-New York City cop. My daughter is now on the police department. I'm proud of her. She's wearing my shield on patrol. She's in my first command that I was in. And what they were essentially doing was taking bullets out of her guns. So right now, a cop's gun holds 15 bullets. They were going to put them down to 7. The other thing, this was all proposed on that horrific incident that happened in Sandy Hook Elementary School. But in fact, this legislation, police officers were not allowed on school property with firearms. So think about this. The whole point was to address these problems. But the cops were going to run up to the school if there was a shooting, drop their gun belts, and run inside. It makes no sense. There's so many holes in this bill that they're working nightly trying to repair it.
I mean, what are the chances that some of these amendments, because there's been talk of some amendments happening directly affecting police officers and allowing them to have larger magazines, if you will, carrying more bullets. I mean, what are the chances that any of these are passed? It seems as if the governor wants to jump right on to the next issue. And kind of
what happened was when I brought that into the Codes Committee, you could see a collective oops, all right, and people started running out of the room. They ran to the Speaker's office. They called the governor's office, and their attitude was, don't worry, we'll fix it. Well, we didn't vote on it yet. Fix it before we vote on it. But no, they rammed it through, they pushed it. And look, there are a lot of other aspects with this gun bill. I mean, this was a missed opportunity because we didn't deal with bullying. If you look at all of these people that do these horrific crimes, they may have been tormented when they were kids, they were picked on. And we didn't deal with issues of school bullying, cyberbullying. We didn't look at our harassment laws. These are conversations that needed to be had. And he closed those conversations off. You had a young girl in New York City that she was standing on a subway platform, and the last thing she texted before she jumped into the train is, I can't take the tormenting anymore. These are issues, mental health issues. We had to deal with these. This was a great opportunity to really deal with these issues. And he closed that conversation off, okay, in his rush to the White House. You know what? This governor's got to step back a little bit. And he's got to listen to use the legislative process to go forward. I mean, look at the bills he has coming now. I mean, this is like governing by soundbite. It's not a New York Minute. It's a 30-second clip. He has this Reproductive Rights Act bill coming up. And I've talked to everybody about this. I don't even think he read it, all right, because the Reproductive Rights Act even the person that is pro-choice would not agree with this bill, because what it does is it defines a live birth as a baby out of the womb with no medical assistance. Look, we have great success with preemie babies, all right? And what this bill says is I can have a little preemie baby in an incubator. His arms are moving, his legs are moving, his eyes are opening, may have a feeding tube, aware of its surroundings. You can walk over to that incubator, pick that baby up, snap its neck, and all you're doing is an abortion. I got a real problem with that. I haven't met anyone. You know what? The governor's got to slow down a little bit. So, I mean, these are the types of things that we're looking at right now. He's on hyperspeed.
And why is that? I mean, is it just because there seems to be a presidential aspiration here? Why the change from the previous time that he was governor? Why now is he seem to be kind of just, because it appeared as if initially that he was willing to work with the legislature. He wanted a transparent and open process, and now it seems as if he's backpedaling a little bit.
Right. Well, what we're doing right now, it appears that they're governing by sound bites. What do they want? You know, where's my 30-second ad? How can I push this forward? If he slows down, in the first 2 years, you know, some of this he did push through, but some of it was well thought out. I mean, you looked at it and you could talk to him. But right now, I think he's just starting to believe his own press clippings. You know, his 70% approval rating, by the way, which dipped down to below 60 right now. And if he keeps it up, it's going to go further. Look, I implore the governor, start working with us, all right? Take some of our input. We were elected also in order to represent the people of our districts. We do have, LIPA is a fine example. The other day he had a meeting with LIPA. All of a sudden I find out in Newsday that his staff had a meeting with the representatives from, you know, Long Island and Albany. And I looked around at my colleagues, I go, anybody get an invitation to this? I didn't get an invitation, all right? And if you look at my caucus, we're probably 80% of the representatives from Long Island. He wants to leave us out. Right away he wanted to go to privatization of LIPA, sell it to a private company. We saw that movie once. It was called Lilco. It didn't work out too well for us. So he's got, you know, we were able to, in the press, he's ramming this through, and most of the elected representatives on Long Island said, slow down. I mean, when Newsday talked to me, I said, look, there's a couple things we can look at here. Number one, can we spur competition? So when they deregulated the phone companies, where you can get different companies bidding, is that a way to get the price down? Should we look at smaller municipal electrics, like making a Nassau County Municipal Electric and a Suffolk County? You need to bring in the county representatives. You need to talk to them, talk to the town representatives, talk to the people that are out there and figure out where they want to go with this. Not just sell a company off to some private company where our rates are going to, look, that's the leading cost of people leaving Long Island now because electricity touches everything. So, I mean, I don't know what he's thinking right now, and when he's wrong, I'm going to stand up and fight him. But I hope that he gets back on track soon and he starts listening to the legislature and stops reading his press clips. I mean, go back to the gun bill. I know you have a clip here of some of the flaws in the gun bill. It was, I mean, there were so many, and I pointed out 3 flaws, major flaws, before we even voted on it.
Well, let's go ahead and roll that video of the Assemblyman discussing his reaction to the gun bill that was passed earlier this session, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about that.
We need a gun policy in this state that is reasonable, that is balanced, that is measured. We respect hunters and sportsmen. This is not taking away people's guns. I own a gun. I own a Remington shotgun. I've hunted, I've shot. That's not what this is about. It is about ending the unnecessary risk of high-capacity assault rifles. That's what this is about.
A bill of this significance and consequence to the residents of New York State, and especially dealing with the Second Amendment rights granted to us through the United States Constitution, is too important of a bill to be rushing through the legislative process. All of the stakeholders have not had an opportunity to weigh in on this legislation and whether it really keeps our communities and families safe.
This is a bill of missed opportunities. There are so many issues surrounding this that we have not even touched upon. A lot of times these children, right, that strike out have been subject to taunting and bullying in our schools, to the point where we had a young girl that couldn't take it anymore and jumped in front of a train. Others will strike out against the people that have tormented them. We haven't touched that. We haven't touched violent video games that have desensitized our children to this type of violence.
And there you were touching on the mental health aspect. And really that should be the focus, not this knee-jerk reaction to just banning an all-out ban on assault rifles.
Well, I hope when you saw that, you could see the concern in my vote. This was to say, slow down. Let's deal with these issues. I mean, that clip didn't even show about me saying, with this bill, you're taking the bullets out of my daughter's gun. Police officers have 15 bullets in their clips. They'll be taking the bullets out of the police officers' guns. And there's no prohibition for the bad guy who's going to now outgun the police in New York City. There was we didn't hit that clip with the fact that the cops weren't allowed into schools with their guns. So, I mean, if you have the shooting in a school, they're going to drop their gun belts and go in. There was a police officer the other day that went to a school in New York City, and because of the way this law was written, was told by the security if he comes there with his off-duty gun to pick up his child, that he would be arrested. This is idiotic, okay? There are so many problems with this bill. And if you look at some of his definitions, what you'll have is a friend of mine does skeet shooting with his wife, and they have a shotgun. And they have an adjustable stock on the shotgun, all right? And what happens is he'll shoot. Now, if his wife shoots, they'll adjust the stock so they don't have to take the gun apart and put a new stock on there. Well, so it's smaller for her. Doesn't make this weapon any more dangerous, but according to this definition, that's an assault rifle now. I mean, there was no thought, there was no reason, there was no discussion, right? There was no input. His mind was made up. He didn't want to be confused with the facts. And because of that, we have a bill that has so many holes in it. Okay, it looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. And now the fact, I don't know how they're going to fix this. I don't know if they're going to do it in the budget. I don't know if they're going to do a chapter amendment on this. But I know when I was on the floor and we didn't have the debate on here, one of the things I asked is, how many amendments are we up to already? We just started debating it. We were up to 3 amendments. And those were the 3 that I pointed out. So who knows?
And the chances of those amendments changing the bill this legislative session, they now don't appear to be a priority. I mean, a governor seems to be jumping on right now.
No, he's got to do it within a certain amount of time, or else these police officers will be violating the law. On the other side of this, too, they didn't exempt retired cops. And the reason that's important is New York City actually has an operation order. So when there's an emergency, they call back retired cops. And they have to bring their weapons in. They did it during Hurricane Sandy. So this is an entire stream of people that are highly trained that you can bring in. The other thing you don't look at, a lot of security guards are ex-police officers. Why not let them carry their guns in schools? If they're trained, that would protect our children.
Thank you very much, Assemblyman, for joining us today on this Assembly calendar. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.